This is premium dog food. Because that's how you've been acting.
The roast was burning, and I couldn't have cared less. 23 years of marriage, and here I was at 11 p.m., trying to salvage what was supposed to be our anniversary dinner. Sarah had texted around 6 saying she'd be working late again, the 4th time this month. But hey, I'm nothing if not optimistic. Or maybe just stupid. If I burn this thing any worse, maybe she'll finally notice I exist, I muttered to Rex, our golden retriever, who was giving me that look dogs give when they know you're talking to yourself again. Smart dog. Smarter than his owner, apparently. I'd closed the hardware store early, stopped by Miller's Market for the good steaks, even picked up those fancy candles Sarah likes, the ones that cost more than most people spend on groceries. All for a woman who couldn't be bothered to come home for our anniversary. The house felt different lately. Emptier, even when Sarah was here. Our daughter Emma was away at college, but it wasn't just the empty nest syndrome everyone warned us about. Sarah had become a stranger, always on her phone, always somewhere else in her head. I was pulling the roast from the oven when I heard her voice from upstairs. Finally home, I thought, until I realized she was on the phone. The words drifted down through the old Victorian's thin walls. I can't wait to see you tonight, babe. Yes, tonight. He'll never know. Unborn, my hands went numb. The roasting pan slipped, clattering to the floor. Rex jumped back, startled by the noise and probably by the look on my face. 23 years and she calls someone else babe. I stood there in my kitchen, surrounded by the ruins of our anniversary dinner, listening to my wife make plans with another man. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was literally holding the pieces while she was upstairs breaking everything else. God, you're pathetic, Mike, I whispered to myself. But Rex just wagged his tail. At least someone in this house still liked me. The next morning, Sarah was gone before I woke up. Nothing new there. But Rex was acting strange, sniffing around the laundry room like he'd caught an unfamiliar scent. I followed him, and that's when I found it. A shirt that definitely wasn't mine, reeking of cologne I'd never smelled before. Expensive cologne. The kind that screams, I drive a BMW and wear designer jeans. I held that shirt for a long time, Rex watching me with those knowing brown eyes. Dogs always know when something's wrong. They just can't tell you about it. Lucky them. But I could tell myself plenty. Like how I'd been an idiot for months, maybe years. How all those late nights at the office and girls' weekends suddenly made perfect sense. How my wife of 23 years had been living a double life, while I played the fool, making anniversary dinners for an empty house. The shirt went back where I found it. No point in confronting her yet. I needed to know more. Know who. Know how long. Know just how big a fool I'd been. That afternoon at the store, I couldn't focus on anything. Mrs. Patterson wanted advice on paint colors for her bathroom, and I nearly suggested she try Betrayal Blue or Cheating Wife Chartreuse. Good thing I caught myself. You all right, Mike? She asked, peering at me over her glasses. You look like you've seen a ghost. Something like that, I said. I just stuck a couple of me. By closing time, I'd made a decision. If Sarah wanted to play games, I could play too. But first, I needed proof. Real proof. Not just cologne-soaked shirts and overheard phone calls. I stopped by the grocery store on the way home, picking up dog food and a bottle of wine. If my wife was coming home tonight with her lover's scent on her clothes, she was going to find a husband who wasn't quite as clueless as she thought. The house was dark when I pulled into the driveway at 7. Sarah's car wasn't there, but that didn't mean anything anymore. I fed Rex, opened the wine, and settled in to wait. She came home at 9:30, humming. Actually humming, like she'd had the most wonderful evening. Her hair was messed up, her lipstick gone, and she had that glow people get when they've been doing things they shouldn't. Hey, honey, she said, barely looking at me. Sorry I'm so late. The Peterson account is ending me. I'll bet, I said. She froze halfway to the stairs, something in my tone finally registering. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. Just that you've been working really hard lately. All those late nights, weekend meetings. Must be exhausting, keeping track of everything. Her eyes narrowed. After 23 years, she could read meat pretty well, too. Mike, if you have something to say, just say it. Actually, I do have something to say, but it can wait until tomorrow. I'm making a special dinner, just for us. Reassure on her face was almost worth it. Almost. What's the occasion? Does there need to be one? Can't a husband surprise his wife anymore? Relieved me for a long moment, then shrugged. Sure, that sounds nice. I should be home by 6. Perfect. I'll make sure we have everything we need. As she headed upstairs, I smiled for the first time in weeks. Tomorrow was going to be very interesting indeed. I spent the morning planning. Not the menu, that was simple enough. But the timing, the setup, the whole production. If Sarah wanted to treat our marriage like a performance, I was going to give her a show she'd never forget. The hardware store practically ran itself that day. I'd owned Murphy's Hardware for 15 years, ever since I'd saved enough to buy old Tom Murphy out. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was honest. More honest than whatever my wife had been up to anyway. Around noon, I called in a favor from my buddy Jake, who ran a locksmith business out of the next town over. I need you to change the locks on my house, I told him, and I need it done this afternoon. Everything okay, Mike? Let's just say I want to control who has access to my home. Jake had been through his own divorce 3 years back. He didn't ask any more questions. At 3 o'clock, I closed the store early and drove home to prepare. Rex greeted me at the door like I'd been gone for months instead of hours. At least someone in this family was loyal. I set the dining room table with our good china, the stuff we'd gotten as wedding gifts and barely used. Candles, cloth napkins, the works. Then I went to the kitchen and started cooking. Not the anniversary roast I'd ruined the night before. Something simpler. Something that would keep well if dinner got delayed. Something that would pair nicely with the main course I had planned. At 5:30, I opened a can of dog food. Premium stuff, chicken and rice. The expensive kind Sarah bought for Rex because only the best for our baby. I spooned it into 2 bowls, added some garnish, and set them on the counter. Sarah's key didn't work in the front door. I heard her trying it several times before she finally knocked. When I opened the door, she was standing there with a confused expression and a man I'd never seen before. He was younger than me by at least 10 years, with the kind of artificially white teeth and carefully styled hair that screamed, I spend more on grooming than most people spend on rent. His shirt probably cost more than I made in a week. Mike, Sarah said, forcing a smile. This is Derek from the agency. Derek, my husband, Mike. Dex extended a manicured hand. Nice to meet you, Mike. Sarah's told me so much about you. I'll bet she has, I said, shaking his hand just hard enough to make him wince. Please, come in, both of you. Dinner's almost ready. Look that could have melted steel. Actually, Derek was just dropping off some files. He doesn't need to stay. Nonsense, I said, stepping aside to let them in. I made plenty. Besides, I'd love to hear more about this Peterson account that's been keeping my wife so busy. Derek glanced between us, finally picking up on the tension. You know what? Maybe I should stay, I said firmly. I insist. I led them into the dining room, where the table was set for 3. Sarah's eyes went wide when she saw the extra place setting. How did you know Derek was coming? She asked. Lucky guess. Please, sit down. I'll get the first course. I returned from the kitchen carrying the 2 bowls of dog food, now artfully arranged with sprigs of parsley and a light drizzle of olive oil. I set them down in front of Sarah and Derek with a flourish. What is this? Derek asked, poking at it with his fork. Something special, I said. Something I thought you both deserved. Sarah took a small bite and immediately spit it out. Mike, what the heck? It's dog food, I said calmly, sitting down across from them. Premium dog food. The good stuff. I figured since you've both been treating me like a dog for God knows how long, you might want to see what it tastes like. Derek pushed his bowl away, his face turning green. This is insane. Is it? My wife brings her lover to our house for dinner on our anniversary. Well, the day after our anniversary, but who's counting? And I'm the one who's insane? Sarah's face had gone white. Mike, I can explain. Can you? Please do. I'm dying to hear this explanation. Start with how long you've been screwing Derek here. Or maybe explain why you thought I was too stupid to figure it out. Derek stood up abruptly, knocking over his chair. I don't have to listen to this. Selfish you do, I said, not moving from my seat. See those locks you heard Sarah struggling with earlier? I had them changed this afternoon. The only way out is through me, and I'm not done talking yet. You can't keep us here, Derek said, but his voice was shaking. I'm not keeping anyone anywhere. You're free to leave any time you want. But your car keys are in my pocket, and it's a long walk back to town, especially in those fancy shoes. I'd lifted his keys while shaking his hand at the door, a trick I'd learned back in my army days, before I'd met Sarah and settled down to a life of hardware sales and matrimonial bliss. Sarah found her voice. Mike, please, let's talk about this like adults. Adults? I laughed, and it came out harsher than I'd intended. Adults don't sneak around behind their spouse's back for months. Adults don't bring their lover to their husband's house and introduce him as a coworker. Adults don't lie about working late while they're off playing house with someone else. How long have you known? She asked quietly. Does it matter? Long enough to realize what an idiot I've been. Long enough to understand why you've been so distant, so cold. Long enough to figure out that our marriage has been a joke for longer than I want to admit. Derek was looking around the room like a trapped animal. This is kidnapping. I'm calling the police. Go ahead, I said, gesturing to the phone on the sideboard. Tell them you're being held hostage by a man who served you dog food in his own home. Tell them you're here with another man's wife, in another man's house, after another man changed his locks. See how that works out for you. He didn't reach for the phone. Now, I continued, I have some questions, and I'd like some honest answers for once. How long has this been going on? Sarah and Derek exchanged glances. Finally, she spoke. 6 months. 6 months. And where do you usually meet? Hotels? His place? Our bed? Mike, please. His place. Hotels, mostly. Sometimes his apartment. But not here. Not in our bed. Well, that's something, I guess. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the street where Derek's BMW was parked. Nice car, Derek.
Must pay well, whatever it is you actually do.
I'm a creative director, he said defensively. Creative? I like that. Very creative, coming up with all those lies about the Peterson account. Very creative, helping my wife deceive her husband of 23 years. I turned back to face them. Sarah was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. Derek just looked sick. Here's what's going to happen, I said. Derek, you're going to leave. You're going to walk out that door and never contact my wife again. You're going to find a new job, preferably in a different city, and you're going to pretend this conversation never happened. And if I don't? Then I'll make sure everyone at your agency knows exactly what kind of man they've been employing. I'll make sure your friends, your family, your neighbors all know what you've been up to. I'll make your life so miserable, you'll wish you'd never heard the name Sarah Murphy. I tossed his keys on the table. Get out. Derek grabbed his keys and practically ran for the door. I heard his BMW start up and screech out of the driveway like he was being chased by demons. Sarah and I sat in silence for a long time, the bowls of dog food between us like some grotesque centerpiece. What happens now? She finally asked. Now you pack a bag and go stay with your sister. Tomorrow, you call a lawyer. And Sarah? Yes? Next time you want to cheat on your husband, maybe don't bring the guy home for dinner. Sarah left that night with a single suitcase and 23 years of marriage in ruins behind her. She didn't say goodbye, didn't try to explain or apologize beyond the tears. Just packed her things while I sat in the living room with Rex, listening to her move around upstairs like a ghost. The house felt different after she was gone. Quieter, but not in a peaceful way. More like the silence after an explosion, when you're waiting to see what's still standing. I called in sick to the store the next morning. First time in 5 years. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and tried to figure out what came next. Divorce, obviously. Division of assets. Lawyers and paperwork and all the bureaucratic machinery that turns a failed marriage into a legal transaction. The phone started ringing around 10. Sarah's sister, Linda, full of righteous indignation about how I'd humiliated Sarah and traumatized her boyfriend. Then Sarah's mother, who'd never liked me anyway and saw this as her chance to really let me have it. You always were beneath her, Margaret said, her voice dripping with the disdain she'd perfected over 2 decades. Sarah deserves better than a small-town hardware store owner who can't even keep his wife happy. You're right, I said. She deserves someone who'll feed her dog food when she cheats on him. I hung up on her. By noon, the story was making the rounds. Small towns are like that. Gossip travels faster than the internet. Mrs. Patterson called to ask if it was true that I had done something terrible to Sarah. Bob Henley from the gas station wanted to know if I needed someone to talk to. Even Father Mackenzie from St. Mary's reached out, offering counseling services. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I wanted to sit in my empty house with my dog and figure out how I'd managed to waste half my life on someone who thought so little of me. But the world doesn't stop for personal disasters. The store needed to be opened, customers needed their supplies, and life had to go on, whether I felt like participating or not. When I finally made it to Murphy's Hardware around 2 p.m., there was a small crowd waiting outside. Not customers, just curious neighbors who wanted to see if the rumors were true. If Mike Murphy had really lost his mind and done something crazy. "Everything okay, Mike?" asked Tom Brennan, trying to look concerned while obviously fishing for details. "Never better," I said, unlocking the front door. "You need something, Tom? Or are you just here for the show?" He had the grace to look embarrassed. "Actually, I need some screws. For my deck." "Screws, right. Well, you've come to the right place." The afternoon passed in a blur of awkward conversations and poorly disguised curiosity. Everyone wanted to know what had happened, what Sarah had done, what I was going to do next. I gave them all the same answer. "It's being handled." Around 5, just as I was getting ready to close up, Derek walked in. I'd been expecting him, honestly. Men like Derek don't handle humiliation well. They need to do something to restore their wounded pride, even if it's stupid. "We need to talk," he said, trying to sound tough. Hard to pull off when you're wearing a polo shirt that probably costs more than most people's rent. "Do we? I thought we covered everything last night." "James, you embarrassed me. You embarrassed Sarah. That was completely out of line." I set down the inventory clipboard I'd been pretending to work on. "Out of line? You've been sleeping with my wife for 6 months, and I'm out of line? That's between Sarah and you. It has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with you, Derek. You made it about you. When you decided to stick your Johnson where it didn't belong." His face flushed red. "You can't talk to me like that." "Actually, I can. This is my store, in my town, and you're the guy who's been screwing my wife. I can talk to you however I want." He stepped closer, trying to intimidate me. Big mistake. I might have been a hardware store owner now, but I'd done 2 tours in the Middle East before I'd settled down to civilian life. Derek looked like his biggest physical challenge was opening a jar of protein powder. "You think you're tough?" he said. "You think that little stunt last night makes you some kind of tough guy?" "No," I said calmly. "I think it makes me a man who's tired of being taken advantage of. Sarah doesn't love you anymore. She hasn't for years. You're just too pathetic to see it." That one hit home, probably because it was true, but I didn't let it show. "Maybe not. But she doesn't love you either, Derek. You're just something new and exciting. A midlife crisis with good hair and expensive clothes. Give it 6 months, and she'll be bored with you too." "You're wrong." "Am I? Tell me, Derek, what do you two talk about when you're not in bed? What do you have in common besides a shared interest in betraying me? Do you like the same movies? Books? Do you want the same things out of life?" Shift. His silence was answer enough. "She's using you," I continued, "just like she used me, but in a different way. I was the stable husband, the provider, the guy who'd be there when she needed security. You're the excitement, the adventure, the guy who makes her feel young again. But neither of us is actually Sarah. We're just roles she needs filled." "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I? How much do you actually know about my wife, Derek? Do you know she's afraid of spiders but won't admit it? That she cries during commercials with dogs in them? That she wanted to be a teacher before her mother convinced her it wasn't good enough? He was looking uncomfortable now. Do you know she takes her coffee with 2 sugars, but tells people she drinks it black because she thinks it makes her sound more sophisticated? That she's been dyeing her hair since she was 30, but pretends it's natural? That she keeps a journal hidden in her nightstand and writes in it every night before bed? Stop. Do you know she wanted 3 kids, but we could only have Emma, and she still cries about it sometimes when she thinks no one's looking? Do you know she's terrified of ending up like her mother, bitter and alone and disappointed by everything life gave her? Shut up. You don't know her at all, Derek. You know the version of Sarah she shows you, the exciting, mysterious woman having an affair. But that's not who she really is. That's just who she's pretending to be, because real life got boring. He swung at me then, a wild, clumsy punch that I saw coming from a mile away. I stepped aside and let his momentum carry him into a display of paint cans. He went down hard, cans scattering everywhere. Feel better? I asked as he struggled to get up. He didn't answer, just limped toward the door, his expensive clothes stained with paint. Derek, I called after him. Next time you want to have an affair with someone's wife, maybe pick someone who doesn't know where to buy rope and duct tape wholesale. He practically ran out of the store. I spent the next hour cleaning up the paint cans and thinking about what I'd said. It was all true. I did know Sarah better than Derek ever would. The problem was, knowing someone and being able to make them happy are 2 different things. Maybe that was the real tragedy of our marriage. Not that she'd cheated, but that knowing each other so well hadn't been enough to keep us together. The phone call came 3 days later, just as I was opening the store for the morning. It was Jim Carver, my oldest friend and the guy who'd been best man at my wedding. Mike, we need to talk. Good morning to you too, Jim. What's on your mind? Sarah came by last night. She's pretty upset about what happened. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Did she now? And what exactly did she tell you? She said you threatened her. Threatened Derek, too. Said you're acting crazy, talking about revenge and making their lives miserable. Is that what she said? Mike, I've known you for 20 years. This isn't like you. Maybe you should talk to someone, get some help dealing with this. I set down the box of screws I'd been unpacking. Jim, let me ask you something. How long have you known about the affair? Shell's on the other end of the line. Jim? Don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. You've known for months, haven't you? You and Carol both. Probably Linda and Margaret, too. Heck, probably half the town knew before I did. Mike? How long, Jim? Another long pause. A couple months, maybe 3. 3 months. And you didn't think to mention it to me? Your best friend, the guy you stood up for at his wedding. And you couldn't find a way to tell me my wife was cheating? It wasn't my place. Marriage problems are between husband and wife. Marriage problems? Is that what we're calling adultery now? Look, Mike, I know you're hurt. Hurt? I'm not hurt, Jim. I'm pissed off. At Sarah, sure, but also at you and Carol and everyone else who decided I was too fragile to handle the truth about my own life. We were trying to protect you. Protect me? By letting me make a fool of myself for months while everyone whispered behind my back? By letting me plan anniversary dinners for a woman who was off screwing someone else? That's your idea of protection? Sarah's scared, Mike. She thinks you might do something violent. I laughed, and it came out bitter. Violent? I served her dog food, Jim. I didn't beat anyone up. I didn't break anything. I embarrassed her and her boyfriend. And now she's running around town trying to make me look like the bad guy. She said you took Derek's car keys, wouldn't let them leave. I delayed them for about 10 minutes while I asked some questions about my own marriage. Sue me. Mike, listen to yourself. You're talking like this is all a joke, but people are worried about you. People are worried about me? Where were all these concerned people when my wife was cheating? Where was all this worry when I was being lied to every day for months? That's different. How is it different? Because marriage is complicated. Sometimes people make mistakes. Mistakes? Jim, she didn't accidentally fall on Derek's Johnson. She made a choice. Every day for 6 months, she made the choice to lie to me, to cheat on me, to treat our marriage like it was worthless. I know, but nothing. You want to know what's really going on here, Jim? Sarah's realized that playing the victim gets her more sympathy than admitting she's the one who destroyed our marriage. So now I'm the crazy husband who threatened poor innocent Sarah and her boyfriend. Are you saying she's lying? I'm saying she's telling the version of the story that makes her look best, just like she's been doing for months. Jim was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to get divorced. I'm going to rebuild my life. And I'm going to remember who my real friends are." Mike, come on, don't be like that. That what? Disappointed that my best friend knew my wife was cheating and didn't tell me? That he's calling me to lecture me about my behavior instead of asking how I'm doing? I am asking how you're doing. No, you're not. You're asking me to make this easier for Sarah. To be the understanding husband who accepts his share of the blame and goes quietly into the night. Well, I'm not going to do that. What does that mean? It means I'm done being the nice guy who gets walked all over. It means I'm done protecting other people's feelings while they crap all over mine. Mike, I hung up on him. The call bothered me more than I wanted to admit. Jim had been my friend since high school. He'd been there when I'd met Sarah, when we'd gotten married, when Emma was born. He'd been the guy I'd called when my dad died, the one who'd helped me through my worst times. And he'd known. For months, he'd known my wife was cheating, and he'd said nothing. The store was busy that morning. Word was getting around about my confrontation with Derek, and people were curious. Some were supportive, like old Mrs. Patterson, who told me I was better off without that flighty woman. Others were more cautious, treating me like I might snap at any moment. Around lunch, Carol Carver came in, Jim's wife, Sarah's former best friend, and the woman who'd probably helped cover for the affair. "Mike," she said, approaching the counter like she was walking through a minefield. "How are you holding up?" "I'm fine, Carol. What can I help you with today?" "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about Sarah." I figured. She's staying with Linda, and she's really struggling with all this. She feels terrible about what happened. Does she? Terrible about the affair, or terrible about getting caught? Carol flinched. She made a mistake, Mike. A big one.
But she's not a bad person.
Isn't she? She lied to me for months. She brought her lover to our house. She's now going around town telling people I threatened her. What part of that makes her a good person? She's confused. She doesn't know what she wants. She wants Derek. She made that pretty clear. I don't think that's true. I think she got caught up in something exciting and new, and now she doesn't know how to get out of it. Lifting rein, I studied Carol's face. She actually believed what she was saying. In her mind, Sarah was the victim here. A poor, confused woman who'd made an innocent mistake and now needed to be rescued from the consequences. "Carol, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Did you help her? With the affair, I mean. Did you cover for her when she was with Derek?" Her face went red. I didn't encourage it. That's not what I asked. Sometimes she needed someone to talk to, someone to help her figure things out. And did you ever suggest she talk to me? Her husband, the person she was supposed to be figuring things out with? It's not that simple. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. Marriage is about two people working through problems together. But Sarah decided to work through our problems with Derek instead. She was unhappy, Mike. She felt like you two were growing apart. So was I. The difference is, I thought we should try to fix it together. She thought she should find someone new. Carol looked uncomfortable. She wants to try to work things out. She thinks maybe you two could go to counseling, try to rebuild what you had. What we had? Carol, what we had was a lie. For months, our entire marriage was based on her deception. Every conversation, every dinner, every time we went to bed together, it was all fake. She was pretending to be my wife while she was really Derek's girlfriend. People make mistakes. Stop calling it a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk at the store. A mistake is double booking dinner plans. Having a 6-month affair with a coworker is a choice, a series of choices, made over and over again, every single day. She loves you, Mike. No, she doesn't. She loves the security I represent. She loves having someone to pay the bills while she plays around with Derek. But she doesn't love me. Carol was crying now. Don't say that. It's the truth, and the sooner everyone accepts it, the better off we'll all be. She left without buying anything, and I went back to my inventory with a heavy heart. It was one thing to lose my wife. It was another thing entirely to realize how many people had been willing to help her betray me. That evening, I sat in my empty house with Rex and tried to figure out what came next. The divorce would be ugly. Sarah would fight for half of everything, including the store I'd built from nothing. She'd probably get it, too, with a good lawyer and a sympathetic judge. But that wasn't what bothered me most. What bothered me was the realization that I'd been living in a fantasy for months, maybe years. While I'd been working to build a life for us, Sarah had been planning her escape. While I'd been trying to be a good husband, she'd been auditioning my replacement. And everyone had known but me. The phone rang around 9. It was Emma, calling from college. Dad? Mom called me. She's really upset. She says you're not handling the separation well. Is that what she told you? That we're separated? Aren't you? I took a deep breath. Emma was 19, old enough to hear the truth, but young enough that it would hurt. Your mother's been having an affair, Emma, for months. I found out and confronted her about it. Now she's living with your Aunt Linda and telling people I'm the problem. Silence on the other end of the line. Emma? How long have you known? About a week. And you're sure? You're sure she was cheating? I'm sure. Another long pause. What are you going to do? Get divorced. Try to move on with my life. Are you okay, Dad? It was the first time anyone had asked me that question without an agenda behind it. The first time someone had seemed genuinely concerned about how I was doing, rather than how my behavior was affecting everyone else. I will be, I said. It's going to take some time, but I'll be okay. I'd love you too, sweetheart. After I hung up, I felt better than I had in days. At least I still had my daughter. At least someone in my family was still on my side. But as I was getting ready for bed, I started thinking about Jim's call, about Carol's visit, about the way people were treating me like I was the problem. Sarah was building a narrative, painting herself as the victim and me as the unstable husband who couldn't handle his wife's mistake, and people were buying it. That bothered me more than it probably should have. But I'd spent 23 years being the good guy, the reliable husband, the man everyone could count on. I wasn't ready to let Sarah rewrite history and turn me into the villain. If she wanted to play victim, that was fine. But I wasn't going to make it easy for her. The plan came to me on a Thursday morning while I was restocking the paint section. It was simple, elegant, and completely legal. The kind of revenge that would hurt without leaving any fingerprints. Sarah wanted to play the victim? Fine. But victims need villains, and I was tired of being cast in that role. Time to remind everyone who the real villain was in this story. I started with the basics. Our joint bank accounts. I was still legally entitled to half, so I transferred my portion to a new account at a different bank. The credit cards in both our names got canceled. The insurance policies that covered both of us changed to cover just me. All perfectly legal. All things I had every right to do as her husband, but it would make her life significantly more complicated. Next, I visited my lawyer. Tom Bradley had handled the paperwork when I'd bought the hardware store, and he'd been straight with me then. I needed someone who'd be straight with me now. How messy is this going to get? I asked him. Depends on how reasonable Sarah wants to be, Tom said. But given what you've told me about her behavior, I'd prepare for a fight. What are my chances of keeping the store? Good, if we can prove you built it with your own money and labor. The house might be trickier. That's marital property, bought during the marriage. I don't care about the house. She can have it, but the store is mine. We'll make that argument. What about alimony? What about it? She might ask for it. She's been out of the workforce for a while, helping with your business. A judge might see that as grounds for support. She's been helping Derek more than she's been helping me. Tom smiled grimly. We'll make that argument too. I left his office feeling better than I had in weeks. Sarah thought she could have her cake and eat it too. Keep Derek as her boyfriend while taking half my assets in the divorce. But life doesn't work that way. The next step was more delicate. Sarah had been telling people I was unstable, dangerous, possibly violent. Time to let people see what real instability looked like. I started with social media. Sarah's Facebook page was full of sympathy-seeking posts about going through a difficult time and learning to be strong. Lots of comments from friends offering support and asking what they could do to help. I created a new account under a fake name and started commenting. Nothing threatening, nothing that could get me in legal trouble, just questions that people might wonder about. Isn't this the woman whose husband caught her cheating? On one post. I heard she brought her boyfriend to her own house for dinner, on another. Funny how she's the victim when she's the one who had the affair, on a third. Within hours, the comments were spreading. People were asking questions, looking at Sarah's posts with new eyes. The narrative was shifting, but that was just the beginning. Derek worked for a small marketing agency downtown, the kind of place that depended on reputation and client relationships. I did some research and found out they handled several local businesses, including the bank where I'd done business for 15 years. I called my contact at the bank, a woman named Patricia, who'd handled my business loans. Patricia, I need to ask you about your marketing agency, the one that handles your advertising. Morrison and Associates? What about them? I've heard some concerning things about their business practices, specifically about one of their employees, Derek Morrison. Derek's the owner's son. What kind of concerning things? Well, I hate to spread gossip, but I heard he's been having an affair with a married client, using company resources to facilitate personal relationships. I just thought you should know, given that you're trusting them with your business reputation. That's very concerning. Do you have any proof? I have the testimony of the woman's husband, but I understand if you need to do your own investigation. Patricia thanked me for the information and promised to look into it. I made similar calls to 3 other businesses that used Morrison and Associates. By Friday afternoon, Derek had been fired. Sarah called me that evening, screaming. What did you do? Derek lost his job. His father won't even speak to him. I didn't do anything to Derek. I just shared some information with concerned business owners. You ruined his life. No, Sarah. Derek ruined his own life when he decided to sleep with a married woman. I just made sure people knew about it. This is insane. You can't destroy people's lives because you're angry. Can't I? You destroyed my life, Sarah. You destroyed our marriage, our family, our future. You did it deliberately, over months, while lying to my face every single day. So forgive me if I don't have a lot of sympathy for Derek's employment problems. I'm calling the police. Go ahead. Tell them your husband shared factual information about your affair with some business contacts. See how that works out for you. She hung up on me, but I wasn't done. Saturday morning, I drove to the Morrison and Associates office. Derek's BMW was in the parking lot, probably cleaning out his desk. I parked next to it and waited. He came out 20 minutes later, carrying a cardboard box of personal items. When he saw me, his face went white. You, he said, you did this. I didn't do anything, Derek. You did this to yourself. I'm going to sue you. This is harassment, defamation. Is it? I told people the truth. You were having an affair with a married woman. You used company resources to facilitate that affair. Those are facts, Derek. You can't sue someone for telling the truth. He set down his box and stepped closer to me. You think you're so smart. You think you've won something. I think I've evened the score a little bit. This isn't over. Yes, it is. You're going to leave town, Derek. You're going to find a new job somewhere else, and you're going to stay away from my wife. Because if you don't, I'll make sure everyone in your new town knows exactly what kind of man you are. You can't. I can, and I will. See, Derek, you made a mistake. You thought I was just some dumb, small-town guy who'd roll over and take whatever you and Sarah dished out. But I'm not. I'm a man who's tired of being screwed over, and I have a lot more patience for revenge than you have for consequences. He got in his car and drove away without another word. I never saw him again. But I wasn't done with Sarah. Sunday morning, I went to church for the first time in months. St. Mary's was packed, as usual, with most of the town's social elite putting in their weekly appearance. Sarah was there, sitting with her sister Linda in the third pew. I sat in the back and waited. After the service, during the social hour in the church basement, I made my move. I approached the group of women Sarah was talking with, all of them wives of prominent local businessmen, all of them part of the social circle Sarah desperately wanted to belong to. "Ladies," I said pleasantly, "how are you all doing?" They turned to me with expressions ranging from sympathy to curiosity. Sarah tried to edge away, but there was nowhere to go in the crowded room. "Mike," said Janet Morrison, the bank president's wife, "we've been so sorry to hear about your troubles." "Thank you, Janet. It's been a difficult time, but I'm learning to deal with it." "His things happen," said another woman, whose name I couldn't remember. "Marriage is hard work." "It is," I agreed, "especially when one person isn't doing their share of the work, or when they're doing their work with someone else entirely." Sarah's face went red. "Mike, please." "Please what, Sarah? Please don't tell people the truth about what happened to our marriage. Please keep pretending that this is just a normal separation between two people who grew apart." The women were looking back and forth between us, sensing drama, but not sure what kind. "I think," I continued, "that people deserve to know what really happened. How my wife of 23 years decided she was bored with our marriage and started sleeping with her coworker. How she lied to me for months while carrying on her affair. How she brought her boyfriend to our house and introduced him to me as just a colleague." The gasps from the women were audible. Sarah looked like she wanted to disappear. "Mike, stop," she whispered. "Stop what? Stop telling the truth? Stop letting people know that you're not the innocent victim you've been pretending to be?" "That's enough," Linda said, stepping between us. "Sarah doesn't have to listen to this." "You're right," I said. "She doesn't. She can leave any time she wants. Just like she could have left our marriage any time she wanted, instead of cheating on me." I looked around at the circle of women, all of them staring at Sarah with new understanding. "Ladies, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. Sarah, I'll see you at the lawyer's office." I walked away, leaving Sarah standing there with her reputation in ruins, and her sister trying to do damage control. It felt good. Better than good. It felt like justice. But I still wasn't done. That afternoon, I called Emma. "Dad, is everything okay?" "Everything's fine, sweetheart. I just wanted to let you know that your mother and I will be getting divorced. The papers should be filed this week. Mom called me yesterday, crying. She says you're trying to destroy her life. I'm trying to get a fair divorce settlement and move on with my life. If your mother feels like her life is being destroyed, maybe she should think about why that is. She says you got Derek fired. Derek got himself fired when he decided to have an affair with a married woman. I just made sure his employers knew about it." Emma was quiet for a moment. "Are you okay, Dad? You sound different." "I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. For the first time in months, I feel like myself again." "What does that mean?" "It means I'm done being the nice guy who gets walked all over. I'm done protecting other people's feelings while they crap all over mine. I'm done being the victim in this story." "Dad, don't worry, sweetheart. I'm not going to do anything illegal or violent. But I'm also not going to make this easy for your mother. She made choices, and now she gets to live with the consequences. I love you, Dad. I love you too. And Emma, don't let anyone tell you that your father is the bad guy in this story. I may not be perfect, but I never lied to your mother. I never cheated on her. I never betrayed the trust she placed in me. I know, Dad. After I hung up, I sat in my living room with Rex and thought about what came next. Sarah would probably try to paint me as a toxic husband, a man who'd snapped under pressure and become dangerous. She'd probably get a restraining order, claim she was afraid for her safety. But I'd been careful. Everything I'd done was legal, factual, and proportionate to what she'd done to me. I hadn't threatened anyone, hadn't broken any laws, hadn't even raised my voice except when she'd called screaming about Derek's job. I'd simply stopped protecting her from the consequences of her actions. And that, I realized, was what she really couldn't forgive. Not the dog food dinner or the public confrontation or even getting Derek fired. What she couldn't forgive was that I'd stopped being her safety net, the reliable husband who'd clean up her messes and protect her reputation. For 23 years, I'd been her insurance policy against the real world. Now, she was on her own, and she didn't like it. Too bad. The divorce papers were filed on Monday morning. By Monday afternoon, Sarah had moved back into our house. Apparently, Linda had gotten tired of hosting her sister's pity party. She called me that evening. Mike, we need to talk. Talk to my lawyer. Please. Just 5 minutes. I think we can work this out without destroying each other. You already destroyed us, Sarah. I'm just making sure everyone knows who swung the wrecking ball. I made a mistake. Stop calling it a mistake. You had a 6-month affair. You brought your lover to our house. You lied to me every single day for half a year. Those weren't mistakes. They were choices. Fine, I made bad choices. But we can get past this. We can rebuild what we had. We had was based on a lie. I can't rebuild something that was never real in the first place. It was real, Mike. The first 20 years were real. The love was real. Was it? Or were you just waiting for something better to come along? She was crying now. Please don't do this. Please don't throw away everything we built together. I'm not throwing it away, Sarah. You already did that. I'm just refusing to pretend it didn't happen. What do you want from me? What will it take to fix this? There's nothing you can do to fix this. The trust is gone, Sarah. Without trust, we don't have a marriage. We just have two people living in the same house, pretending to love each other. I do love you. No, you don't. You love the idea of me. You love having a husband who'll pay the bills and provide security while you do whatever you want. But you don't love me. That's not true. Prove it. Tell me one thing about me that you've always loved. One thing that made you choose me over every other man you could have had. You can't, can you? Because you never really saw me, Sarah. I was just a role you needed filled. The provider, the stability, the safety net. But Derek made you feel something I never could, didn't he? He made you feel young and exciting and desirable. Mike, telling isn't the pointing. At now, you good enough. You cheated on me because I was exactly what you needed, and that bored you. You wanted passion and excitement, and I was offering reliability and commitment. I want both. I want you and the excitement. You can't have both. Not from me. I'm done being your backup plan while you go looking for something better. And turned off the phone. The next morning, I opened the store as usual. Business was good. Apparently, my reputation as the wronged husband was actually helping sales. People seemed to respect the man who'd stood up for himself instead of rolling over and taking it. Around noon, Sarah showed up. She looked terrible. Red eyes, messy hair, clothes that looked like she'd slept in them. The put-together marketing executive was gone, replaced by a woman who was falling apart. Mike, please, just talk to me. I told you to talk to my lawyer. I can't afford a lawyer. You cleaned out our bank accounts. I took my half of our money. You're welcome to your half. There wasn't enough in my account to hire anyone good. That sounds like a you problem. She started crying right there in the store, in front of the customers. Please don't do this to me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. Part of me wanted to comfort her. 23 years of marriage doesn't just disappear overnight, and seeing her cry still hurt. But a bigger part of me remembered all the nights I'd lain awake wondering why she was so distant, all the times I'd tried to reconnect with her while she was thinking about Derek. Sarah, you need to leave. You're disrupting my business. Your business? This is our business. I helped build this place. Did you? When? Between your marketing job and your affair, when exactly did you help build my hardware store? I did the books. I handled the advertising. You did the books twice a month when I begged you to help. You designed one newspaper ad 3 years ago. You've never worked a day on the floor, never dealt with a supplier, never stayed late to finish inventory. I supported you. You tolerated me. There's a difference. And I could see Sarah was embarrassing herself. Good. Let people see what she was really like when she didn't get her way. I'm calling the police, she said finally. Go ahead. Tell them your husband won't take you back after you cheated on him. See how much sympathy you get. He left, but she didn't call the police. Instead, she called Jim. He showed up an hour later with 2 other guys I'd known for years, Bob Henley and Rick Santos, both of them husbands in our social circle. Mike, Jim said, we need to talk. Do we? Sarah's falling apart. She's talking about hurting herself. That sounds like something she should discuss with a therapist. Come on, man. She made a mistake, but she doesn't deserve this. I looked at the three of them. Men I'd considered friends. Men I'd trusted. Men who were now here to pressure me into taking back my cheating wife. Let me ask you guys something, I said. If your wives had 6-month affairs, brought their lovers to your houses, lied to you every day for half a year, would you take them back? They exchanged glances. That's different, Bob said finally. How? Because Sarah's not like that. She's not a cheater. She just got confused. She's not a cheater? Bob, she cheated. For 6 months. With her coworker. How is that not being a cheater? You know what I mean. No, I don't. Explain it to me. Rick jumped in. Look, Mike, marriage is hard. Sometimes people make mistakes. But you don't throw away 23 years over one mistake. One mistake that lasted 6 months and involved bringing another man into my house. She's sorry, Jim said. She wants to make it right. How? How does she make it right? Does she unsleep with Derek? Does she take back all the lies? Does she give me back the months I spent wondering what was wrong with our marriage while she was off playing house with someone else? She can't change what happened, Bob said. But she can commit to doing better. Like she committed to our marriage vows? Like she committed to forsaking all others? That kind of commitment? They were getting frustrated now. Probably because they couldn't argue with my logic. Mike, Jim said, you're being unreasonable. Sarah made a mistake, but she's not evil. She's a good person who got caught up in something she couldn't handle. A good person. Jim, good people don't have affairs. Good people don't lie to their spouses. Good people don't bring their lovers home to meet their husbands. Everyone makes mistakes. Stop calling it a mistake. A mistake is something you do once and regret immediately. Sarah made a choice, every single day for 6 months, to betray our marriage. Those weren't mistakes. They were decisions. What do you want from her? Rick asked. What would it take for you to forgive her? Nothing. There's nothing she can do. The trust is gone, and without trust, there's no marriage. So that's it? You're just going to destroy her life because you can't forgive one mistake? I'm not destroying her life. I'm refusing to pretend that what she did was okay. I'm refusing to be the understanding husband who takes the blame for his wife's affair. Unless nobody's asking you to take the blame, Bob said. Aren't you? You're here telling me I'm being unreasonable for not forgiving her. You're telling me I should take her back because she's sorry. You're making this about my failure to be a good enough husband to deserve forgiveness. That's not what we're saying. It's exactly what you're saying. You're saying that Sarah's affair was understandable, forgivable, something any reasonable husband would get over. But my refusal to forgive her is unreasonable, cruel, destructive. They didn't have an answer for that. Here's the thing, guys, I continued. Sarah didn't just cheat on me. She disrespected me. She made me look like a fool in front of the whole town. She took everything I gave her, my love, my trust, my commitment, and she threw it away for a few months of excitement with Derek. She regrets it now, Jim said weakly. Does she? Or does she regret getting caught? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like she's only sorry because her affair blew up in her face. You're being cruel, Mike. Am I? Or am I finally standing up for myself after 23 years of being taken for granted? They left without accomplishing anything, and I went back to work feeling better than I had in weeks. That evening, Sarah called one more time. Mike, I'm begging you. Please don't destroy our marriage over this. I didn't destroy our marriage, Sarah. You did. I'm just refusing to help you rebuild it on the same foundation of lies. I'll do anything. I'll go to counseling. I'll change jobs. I'll cut off all contact with Derek. You already cut off contact with Derek. I made sure of that when I got him fired. Then what do you want? I want a divorce. I want to split our assets fairly and move on with my life. I want to stop pretending that what we had was real. It was real, Mike. The love was real. Maybe it was, once. But you ended it, Sarah. You ended it when you decided Derek was more important than our marriage. Please, please, relieve over, Sarah. sign the papers, take your half of what we built together, and let's both try to find some happiness with people who actually want to be with us. I hung up for the last time. The divorce was finalized 6 weeks later. Sarah got the house and half our savings. I kept the store and my self-respect. She moved to another state a month after that. Apparently, the social fallout from our very public breakup had made life in our small town uncomfortable for her. Derek had already left town, so there was nothing keeping her here. I heard through the grapevine that she'd tried to reconcile with him, but he wasn't interested in a relationship with a woman who'd cost him his job and his family's respect. Apparently, affairs are more fun when there are no consequences. Jim and the other guys tried to maintain friendships with both of us, but it didn't work. They'd chosen sides when they'd come to pressure me into taking Sarah back. And we all knew it. I made new friends. People who respected a man who stood up for himself, instead of rolling over and taking whatever life dished out. Emma came home for Christmas that year, and we had a good talk about what had happened. She understood why I couldn't forgive her mother, and she didn't ask me to try. "I'm proud of you, Dad," she said. "You didn't let anyone push you around." "Sometimes you have to fight for your own dignity," I told her. "Sometimes being the nice guy means being the fool." "Are you happy?" "I'm getting there. It takes time to rebuild your life, but I'm working on it." And I was. The store was doing better than ever. I was dating a nice woman from the next town over, and I was sleeping better than I had in years. Most importantly, I was done being the victim in my own life story. Sarah had wanted to have her cake and eat it too. Keep me as the stable husband while she played around with Derek. When that didn't work out, she'd wanted me to be the understanding ex-husband who'd make the divorce easy for her. But I'd refused to play either role. I'd forced her to face the consequences of her choices, and I'd made sure everyone knew who was really responsible for destroying our marriage. It wasn't cruel, it was justice. And sometimes, justice is the only thing that lets you sleep at night.